What is going on, everybody? Aiden from Birds vs. Boys here, coming to you after the Eagles beat the Giants, get the revenge and redemption, and move on to 6-2 ahead of the bye week. This game specifically reminded me of two instances. One, it reminded me of the Giants game we played just 2 short weeks ago, except flipped. Everything we wanted the Eagles to do in that game, they did against the Giants on Sunday. And it reminded me last year of the Kelly Green game against the Jaguars in October. Maybe it was just the Jahan Dotson circus trick shot catch that he had today versus against the Jaguars last year. But it reminded me of those two things. And I'll get into why and how that led to an Eagles victory. But you look at a few weeks ago when we did a recap show, it was somber, it was sad. Everything that we felt we knew about the Eagles was in question and in jeopardy based on their performance against the Giants. I thought they were mentally and physically beaten up in that game. And it was quite the opposite here against the Giants once they got home and once they got themselves back on track. From literally the beginning, the second play of the game, you get vintage Saquon Barkley for the first time this year. The long 70-yard touchdown or 65-yard touchdown run from Saquon to the house on play two. You saw Malata just ragdolling Kayvon Thibodeau behind the play on that one. That felt like vintage Saquon that you had seen a year ago. It made you feel good about him. It made you feel good about the offensive line. And I think overall, that is your takeaway from this game is that was great offensive line play from the Eagles. And Saquon has been questioned multiple times over the course of the season. Hey, what's different? Why is this not working the way it was a year ago? And it's not a multiple choice question. You can't fill in one box. It's like on the SATs, if you don't know what's wrong, or you don't know the right answer, just put C. This is not one of those. This is an open-ended response. It is Saquon not being able to find the same holes because the offensive line is not creating the same holes. Why are they not creating the same holes? Well, they're not winning at the line of scrimmage the way they were. Well, why weren't they winning at the line of scrimmage the way they were? Part of that is health. Part of that is scheme. They're getting healthier, although Cam Jurgens didn't play. And you saw differences in the scheme today. Creativity, all of the buzzwords that we got to throw around for the past few weeks, it's finally coming to life. On that play, look where the center was, under center. We talked about it last week, how they were able to operate under center, run play action pass. They were 4 for 4, including a touchdown last week with play action under center. This week, they start the game, second play, under center, 65-yard Saquon touchdown. So it just felt a little bit different this week, whereas like everything where they questioned Saquon why things were going wrong, today they went right. It was better scheme. There was variation in what they were doing. They used packages where Fred Johnson came in as an extra blocker, it seemed like, where he was almost like I don't want to say a tight end, but, lined up on the line so they have an extra offensive lineman, kind of like the Stanford Cardinal back in the day with Andrew Luck, where they would go with those jumbo packages. It was very, very effective. He was on the field for double-digit plays. That's something you haven't really seen a lot of. You'd seen it before this year, but you hadn't seen a lot of it. So that's something new. So they were able to operate out of different looks. Because there's different looks, there's more things for the defense to prepare for. And when you have a healthy offensive line, and guys are prepared. And Brett Toth, I know he was starting for Cam Jurgens, but it's the first time really where he had a week to prepare instead of being thrown into the game, and you got good results from that. So all in all, it was a relatively healthy offensive line. There was the scheme behind that offensive line to keep the defense on their toes. And after a while, as you saw, they really started to wear them down. What really made me irate in that Giants game a few weeks ago was the fact that they looked physically beaten up and scared to tackle at the end of the game. They had clearly just quit on the game itself on that Thursday night football game. And you saw those like long runs where Scatabo, who unfortunately got injured in this game in a gruesome way, but in that game, he was just running through guys at the end of the game. Tyrone Tyrone Tracy was as well. And it was just a run that should have been stopped at the line that turns into 12. And it's like, all right, you've quit. I can tell that you're still playing, but you've quit. And today it was kind of the opposite for the Eagles, where you saw late in the game Tank Bigsby have that 17-yard run where he's just running through guys. There was a 2nd and 31 play where he breaks 2 tackles to convert a 2nd and 31 on really what was just a sacrifice draw. And these things, again, all conjoin. If you are less predictable, it's harder for a defense. It's easier on your offensive line. And as they get healthier and they find their groove, this is what it leads to. And then when the running game's going, you have a quarterback who's confident in himself and has 4 touchdowns and 5 incompletions. He only had 1 more incompletion than touchdown passes today. So then, even without A.J. Brown on the field, the passing game looks better because they have to worry about Saquon again. It's so funny how these things work. They all complete a circle together. So that's everything that I felt. And it reminded me of that Jaguars game from a year ago. One, obviously, because it's a feel-good Kelly Green jersey day in October. Beautiful weather, Kelly Green jerseys, great tailgate. Everybody's having fun. Beautiful day in Philadelphia, sun shining. But more so, if you remember a year ago, everybody remembers the back half of that Eagles season and then becoming Super Bowl champions. But early going, there were a lot of questions about that offense as well. And if you remember one of the early season storylines with that team, it was the fact that they were unable to score early. They had a streak before that Jaguars game where they did not put up a single touchdown in the first quarter. They went until October without scoring a touchdown in the first quarter. And we all forget about that kind of. That's been memory hold for us because they end up going on and dominating on the route to a Super Bowl victory. But at that time, that Jaguars game was the first point where you felt very confident in this offense. They had great Devontae Smith action in that game. Saquon Barkley had the reverse hurdle, but more so, he was able to run the ball effectively. The offense looked at its most put together point in that game, just like it did against the Giants. You had 2 100-yard rushers yesterday in Tank Bigsby and Saquon Barkley. So it just felt like, again, last year it was the bye that really set the team straight. This year they're going into their bye right now, but more so, well, it was the mini bye where they said, hey, we have some things to correct. And then they did so. And you've seen it in the past 2 weeks. It's not just the under center, it's the play action, but it's the ability to create that variation at the line and becoming less predictable, which seemingly is the big thing here. Shale Kapidia, I obviously, as anybody who's followed the show for quite some time knows that I just butcher every name. So apologies to him. But he put it out. It was the second best EPA per drive game of the season for the Eagles overall for the entire NFL. It was the second best, that Eagles performance. Really not punting. They had 1 missed field goal. A lot of the drives ended in touchdowns, just poured it on late. So it was a very, very successful game. I thought they just, won at the line of scrimmage. It was the first time that they finally outgained their opponent on the season. So that's like one of those things, again, like the Jaguars game. They didn't have a point in the first quarter, or they didn't have a touchdown in the first quarter going into October against the Jaguars a year ago. This year, they hadn't outgained their opponent yet until October. They finally do so yesterday, and I thought that was just a really good offensive performance. A.J. Brown did not play. I know if you are Diana Rossini, this allows you to continue to just put out the same regurgitated report about trade rumors with him, because you'll say, oh, well, they looked better without A.J. I think in short terms, you can play with substitutes, and it does look better. That does not hold up over the course of a 17-game season. I think example A of that would be Nick Foles. He is great in month spurts. He is not the durable quarterback of a full season. We have learned that through and through. We had multiple rounds of that. So, again, for 2 weeks through the bye, instead of talking about how this team's finally establishing themselves in the run game, we will probably talk about A.J. Brown trade rumors and what tweets he's deleting. And I can't wait for next Sunday when Diana Rossini puts out the same report that we've seen for the past 4 months. I feel like I'm Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. I'm waking up and Hall & Oates is playing on the radio again. I'm waking up and I'm looking at my social media and Diana Rossini is putting out the same regurgitated report again. Nothing's changed. It's the same slop recycled with these national media heads that's saying, well, the Eagles aren't trading A.J. Brown, but maybe if somebody offered them a Godfather package, they could be interested. I haven't looked at his exact cap hit, but the dead cap of trading A.J. Brown would be so astronomical. It wouldn't make sense in any form or fashion. It's not some fake injury with the trade deadline coming up. A.J. Brown has now had 4 seasons where he's had a hamstring issue. If you wanted to trade somebody, it might be that being the reason instead of whatever tweets he's deleted about Jalen Hurts. But again, I think that was a product of a good game plan. Credit where credit is due to Kevin Patullo, Nick Sirianni, and Jalen Hurts. That was credit where credit is due of taking pressure off guys around them without A.J. Brown. More so than it is anything of the Eagles looking better because it's addition by subtraction. As Michael Scott once said, I've never understood the phrase addition by subtraction. I feel that same way with this A.J. Brown situation. I think it was good for this game. I hope to see him back on the field here in about 2 weeks against the Lions. It's all hands on deck when you're playing a team like that. So that's my take on AJ itself. And looking at this now, going over to the defensive side of the ball, pretty good performance from them today. This was a very depleted Giants roster. Obviously, Malik Neighbors out for the season. The error came out of the balloon for that Giants team when Scatabo dislocated his ankle. The energy was on full display in that Thursday night football game. Again, it was something that was really bothering me. I was like, you're letting 2 rookies just out-energize you guys. Like, they look like they want to be here and they want to be playing, and you guys don't look like you want to be here. So that, to me, it felt like that energy level, those 2 Energizer bunnies, when he got injured, it kind of cratered their energy levels, which I don't blame them whatsoever. And they just don't have the weapons without Neighbors on the outside and then without the energy ball that is Scatabo to really keep up. I thought they were in a tough position to begin with because I thought the Eagles were going to be looking for revenge. I thought they were in a tough position because Vic Fangio is a guy, if you give him the questions on the test and then allow him to repeat the test quickly right after that and play this team twice in the span of 3 weeks, he's going to make adjustments. That's going to be very difficult on a rookie quarterback. And it was. They were able to get more pressure than they did a few weeks ago. Again, the pressure looks is really what's intriguing to me. You once again saw Jalen Carter lining up as an edge rusher at points. They used Josh Uche as a roamer. Jalix Hunt was also kind of playing this rover position where he doesn't always line up at edge, but there was a really good play where they got pressure on the outside. Jalix Hunt, as Jackson Dart stepped up in the pocket to avoid the pressure. Jalix Hunt is there on the inside to get the sack. So again, these are all things in succinct. We like to see all the phases working together as they were yesterday. They did not allow him to run as much as they did in that first game. He can create play. He reminds me of Jalen Hurts, is that when he's outside of the pocket, he can create plays with his arms and his legs, and his mobility is such a key factor for that team. You even saw it in a loss where there was one drive. The game is close to being over, but they were in multiple 3rd and longs that he was able to convert just by extending the play, getting outside the pocket, and lofting it down the field as the play kind of breaks down around him. The Eagles did a lot better job of making sure that those broken plays around him don't result in back-breaking conversions for the Giants. That was really good to see. And Nakobe Dean, I think the people are looking at it like this, where it's like Jahad Campbell played less. The Eagles were more physical. Does that mean he shouldn't play less? To me, you're looking at your hand, and you are the guy in Uno who has multiple draw 4s, draw 2s with this linebacker situation. Bond is a class of his own, but now you use Nakobe Dean more in this game. It resulted in some great results where they didn't really be able to establish the run. The physicality of your team increased, and Jahad Campbell played less, but that doesn't mean in 2 weeks you're not going to need Jahad Campbell against a Lions team that is very physical, but also, is able to get creative in what they do, spread you out with different looks and stuff like that. And you may need a Jahad Campbell at that point. You may need him rushing off the edge. You may need him at a linebacker position where you just need speed on the field against a team like that. So to have this embarrassment of riches at linebacker is something that I'm not used to. So to me, the takeaway is not the fact that Jahad Campbell didn't play as much as he had. Is he getting replaced by Nakobe Dean? No, this is again, you are holding all the cards in the deck that you would need to hold to win the game. That's how I feel about the linebacker position right now. And it paid off in this game because Nakobe Dean played really well. His physicality is just unmatched. And it's good to see him healthy. I was very worried going into year 4 with him that coming off a ruptured patella that he might lose a step for a guy who's really not a speedster freak athlete at that position. He's more of just like a traditional linebacker, but he's looked really good these past 2 weeks as he really gets his legs under him. And with this defense, I think what you're going to see more, I don't think they're done. I don't think they are a full unit, but you are going to come out of that bye week and you're likely going to get Nolan Smith back. You're going to have Brandon Graham for the first time. So now at least you have depth at that edge rusher position. I mentioned Uche, who's played really well. Patrick Johnson had flashes as well. Jalix Hunt continues to improve, where it just seems like he's around the ball a lot, which is what you want to see when you're a guy who gets drafted for his high RAS score, and he's an athletic freak. That's what we want to see from him. So it now feels like you're starting to get this complete unit. I still think they're a piece away, whether that's CB2 or just adding another elite edge rusher. Max Crosby keeps saying that he doesn't want to be traded, that he wants to stay in Vegas. That's true until it's not. If I'm a Raider, I feel like everybody hits a breaking point. I think Myles Garrett, after signing that contract, is already at his breaking point with the Browns. He had 5 sacks and they lost by 19. So I think everybody's complacent where they are until they're not. I wouldn't rule him out in any way, but I do think there are some potential opportunities for the Eagles to get one more piece. I don't know if it's necessarily an edge rusher because you're getting pieces there. I would like to see an elite talent if you could get it at that position, but I think it's more likely they covet CB2. Although, guess who didn't allow a single reception yesterday? Kelly Ringo, flying under the radar. Didn't have a bad week last week against the boys down in Minnesota who are really good, Addison and Justin Jefferson. Big week this week. I know, listen, he was playing a battered and bruised Giants receiving core, but no receptions is no receptions. We'll take it. And I kind of felt that way. That the Giants secondary is banged up as well, and they were using a practice squad guy, and you can kind of just tell the difference. I felt kind of bad for him because it's like this is your one opportunity, and he got called up. Like, what a bad position to be put in, where he got called up from the practice squad. I'm sure pre-snap communication, he's done none with this defense for the Giants, but you just saw like the difference between like elite NFL talent and guys that are playing on the practice squad in that situation with the Giants corners who kind of got thrust in there because they didn't have anybody else. And Jahan Dotson is making circus catches over you for the touchdown. It's no fault of them, but it made me feel bad. But again, hey, that's the difference, right? Kelly Ringo is holding his own. Sometimes it doesn't matter who it is on the other side. Just make sure you're holding his own. He did that today. I think they get pretty healthy in this bye week because they'll have Brandon Graham ramped up. Nolan Smith will be back. I think that will be a great sign for this team. And hopefully they'll have A.J. Brown and Cam Jurgens back as well. And hopefully they just skyrocket like they did last year with the bye week. And they've got an interesting schedule. I really like where the Lions and the Packers are. I think that's a great test right out of the bye for this team. The one thing, we're going to do a State of the Union with the Eagles this week because we're about halfway through the season. They're in their bye week. It's a good time to reflect on what they've done and what they still need to accomplish and how they do that. And especially looking ahead to that back half schedule where it's kind of a mixed bag, right? We don't know how we feel about some of the divisional opponents like the Cowboys and the Commanders, but we kind of do know how we feel against the Lions and the Packers right out of the gate as you're back from your bye. One thing I'd like this team to improve on, there's still too many the I keep going back to like tough, detailed together. There are times where I don't feel they are detailed nor together. There's a lot of just like weird penalties that they get to, and I will talk about the refs in a second. But I still think there's moments where they're not detailed. It leads to a penalty. They put themselves behind the eight ball quite a bit. It's just that they have such elite talent that they look like a pool shark who can then spin the cue ball around the eight ball and sink another shot. That, like, for a good example of that would be they're in second 31. They run a sacrifice draw and Tank Bigsby breaks 2 tackles and gets all 31 of it back in one play. But that just happens way too often with them, where I just think once a week they get a special teams penalty. I hate to see that. There's a few like pre-snap infractions with the offense. There's times where like they don't get to the line and then they're trying to rush the play with 1 second on the play clock. They had to delay a game yesterday. So I just think they do sometimes the detail isn't there. And that's the one thing I want to improve. If they are sharper, you saw the past 2 weeks, you're seeing the elite talent shine through. Against the Vikings, it was the passing game with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And then this week was more so the running game with Saquon and Tank Bigsby. To me, like, if they can get sharper as the season goes and eliminate these pre-snap penalties and these weird special team infractions that they seem to get every single week, if they can eliminate that, I think that they'll be in a really good spot. Going back all the way to week 1, we were talking about this in week 1 where they had multiple unsportsmanlike conduct penalties that were giving the Cowboys 15 yards. We got to be sharper in everything that we're doing. I think we were tough against the Giants. I think we need to be more detailed and more together. I think toughness wise, today against the Giants, we were an A+. I think detailed together, we were a B, maybe a B-, and that's okay, but you just want to continue to build on that. And I don't want to take away from that performance because, again, I thought scheme-wise they were really good. I thought gap integrity, they were awesome. I thought blocking, they were just so good. Again, the Fred Johnson packages where they're just bulldozing guys, and Brett Toth played well. But we'll get into all that in the State of the Union. 60 seconds on the refs before we wrap this up. But, yeah, that was atrocious. I can't do it with the tush push anymore. That's not a tush push controversy. The play where Jalen Hurts, it's 3rd and 1, he runs the tush push. He, for some reason, reaches the ball forward, even though half of his body is over the line, like he's at the end zone, but he's not. It was just a normal 3rd and 1 in the field of play. So reaching over, it is very likely that somebody could reach out. The play is not dead if you get to the first down. Somebody could reach out and knock the ball out of your hands. They do. Kayvon Thibodeau rips it from him. They say that the play is dead, even though a whistle did not blow. It was not a fumble recovery for the Giants, and instead it was just a normal 1st and 10 for the Eagles. The controversy is because it came on a tush push play. That's not a tush push problem. That's just an officials not having control problem, which continues to be an issue in this league. If that was a QB sneak, the same issue would have persisted. They didn't stop. They didn't blow the whistle dead for forward momentum. They allowed the play to continue, and then afterwards seemingly said that forward momentum is dead. That could have happened on just a regular QB sneak. It's just more controversial, and everyone's going to talk about the tush push now because of that, because it happened on a tush push play. I'm so tired of hearing about this. Like, the tush push is not the issue. It's the officials and them missing obvious stuff and having no control and command of the game. That could happen on any play. This feels very simple to me. Did you blow the play dead for forward momentum being stopped before the ball came out? Yes or no? In that case, it was a no, and you called for a momentum stop. That could happen on so many different plays. That's just officials being bad at their job. They do not have command. And there are calls on both sides. For some reason, we're getting it with the Giants because they were complaining about that play particularly, but then an offensive pass interference later in the game. I'm telling you right now, the new I don't know what a catch is I don't know what a strip sack is, because it has now happened to the Eagles twice where it looks like a clear and definitive, the arm is not going forward and the ball is out, strip sack fumble for the Eagles that they recover, and you come back from commercial after they review and the offensive team is still out on the field for the opposing team. It's happened against the Broncos. It happens against the Giants. In the case of the Giants' offensive pass interference that did look absolutely phantom to me, they shouldn't have had the ball in the first place because the officials once again missed what a strip sack is. This is going to cost a team in a primetime game and is going to become a national story. And it hopefully doesn't happen in a playoff game. There's going to be a strip sack that looks 99.9% strip sack, and everybody's in agreement. And then there's going to be some weird recovery rule, almost tuck rule situation where a team is screwed over by this because I don't understand the rule. I truly just don't understand the rule right now. Everything is looking to me in both of those instances like a strip sack. The arm is not coming forward. There's not control of the ball. And then we come back and they're saying that he did have control. The arm is going forward. It's weird to me. I think it's going to cost the Eagles in multiple cases, but it'll cost a team in a playoff game. Hopefully it's not us for a third time to the season, but the Giants offensive pass interference never happens if they just simply call that a offensive pass or a fumble recovery to begin with for the Eagles. So I don't want to be like, and that's the thing. Even the announcers these days are saying like, it's been multiple weeks now where I've watched an Eagles game and the announcers are critical of the officials because they don't know what to say. The calls are so bad and the lack of command in the game is so bad by the officials that they can't critique the officials, but they don't know what to say then because they know the call is wrong and they don't know what to do. And then you got Dean Blandino coming in and being like, well, it's National Tight End Day. You don't know what day it is? It's never National Officials Day. And it's like, well, yeah, they've been horrible in this game. I don't know what you want me to say. They were horrible both ways. And one could say, hey, it balances out. And it does because there's bad calls on both sides. But I'd rather it just like balance out in terms of overall performance and play. The Eagles were a better team yesterday. They had 2 100-yard rushers. So at the end of the day, they were definitely 18 points better than the Giants. But I could just do without the official controversy every single week going forward. Michael Strahan said it after the game, but he was like, I think this is one of the worst officiated games of the year. Who's to disagree? But I just feel like we'll have more tush-push discussion. And I can't do it anymore. I'm so exhausted that there's a new tush push controversy every single week. So I just wanted to voice my opinion on the officials because I agree somewhat with people, but not overall. And I think it's amplified by the fact that the Giants coach has the emotional maturity of a toddler going through their terrible twos. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. So all in all, hey, great day for the Eagles. They're 6-2 going into the bye. They beat their division opponent. Their other division opponent gives up a 40-burger in Denver. So they're in good shape here. They're going to get healthier, hopefully. It's the most confident you've felt in the offense. It feels like since we did the last Giants recap show, we're feeling a lot better about this team. We're feeling a lot better about the direction of this team. We will keep it rolling. Like I said, we're going to do a few interviews this week. It's going to be jam-packed, even though we got the Eagles bye week. We got a few interviews that we're setting up. We have a very special announcement for a game that's upcoming for the Eagles here soon. And I'm going to do an Eagles State of the Union about halfway through the season. Looking forward to it all and looking forward to the Eagles being back in 2 weeks. Enjoy your week off. We'll see you for the Lions game. We'll talk to you soon.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here. And I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. Upset alert.
I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone. If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That is
the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.